Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral,
And my name is Miska.
and welcome to HitScan. Ranked is out, everybody is able to play it, and the grind up to Radiant starts now for everybody involved. But we do get a lot of questions on this channel asking what agents should people be playing, and also there's been a couple of buffs and nerfs here or there that might change up how valuable certain agents can be. Now that Ranked is here, we wanted to rate all of the agents within Valorant from worst to best when it comes to playing them, learning them, and ranking up within Valorant. Just as a very quick PSA, honestly, play whoever you want. If you want to play a lot of Viper, which spoiler alerts is probably the worst agent to be learning right now, then fair enough, there's still a lot to learn about all of the agents, but this is more of a primer for people that aren't really sure what agents are good, who they should be playing in Ranked, and just want a helpful push in the right direction. But do let us know your best and worst agents to be playing within Valorant or Ranked in the comments below. The first agent on our list, which we'd consider the worst to be learning right now at least, is Viper, and this comes with a lot of asterisks attached to her name, as truth be known, we don't really know how good she is right now. I would agree with the devs and pros that have turned around and said that people aren't utilizing Viper enough, that there's a lot of knowledge and experience and effective use that people are leaving on the table by not playing her and picking up other options. Not to mention, of course, Viper got buffed in this patch recently. But if you're about to jump into Ranked now and you want an agent to play, I still wouldn't recommend her. Frankly, you get a higher impact out of the other controllers and smokers in the game, and also they're a lot easier to play. Viper could do some really cool stuff. There's some really good tech there, but you have to learn it all. You have to learn all of the right executions with the smoke, the one-ways with the poison cloud, throwing it on boxes, the lineups for your snake bite, and even placement for your ultimate. It feels like you need to really look at all of those videos and Reddits where people are putting out all of this info to really have a decent showing at Viper. It doesn't mean you're going to be amazing at her at all. Compare that to Brimstone, for example, where it's just boop boop boop, plop down the smokes, and you've set up and execute very easily. You can understand why Viper's trailing at the bottom here. But over the next couple of weeks, I could see Viper catapulting herself higher in this list when it comes to how good she can be. There is going to be an interview on this channel with the pro player Jammies, who is an avid Viper player, and he said it's actually crazy all the things that you could do with Viper now. So there's still more to learn, but if you're playing Ranked today and want to start from now, there's more consistent options to be picking up that you know how effective you're going to be instead of taking a plunge with Viper where things are still very much up in the air.
Phoenix was still not the greatest pick due to not being able to synergize that consistently with his team. Is a character that can be difficult to deal with if you've got your sort of superstar player on them. If you feel like your aim is on top of the world and you haven't quite mastered Breach, then it's not a terrible pick. You obviously gotta try and mask those flashbangs so you're not that obvious when you throw out the curveballs, and make sure you get value out of that ultimate, whether it is through getting kills or information. Then you can be consistent enough with him to do well. Due to the nature of those flashbangs as well, your team is very reliant on you getting those thrown out and getting a kill from that when you're attacking and defending, which really leaves Phoenix in a sort of vulnerable spot on this particular tier list.
Next up is Reyna. Very similar to Viper, granted Reyna's been out a lot longer, but I still feel that there's a lot to learn about this agent and where she's good. Now a lot of people will argue, and I think quite rightly, that Reyna can be super strong and maybe even a bit overpowered. But that's, I feel, more to do with a player playing Reyna than the agent themselves. Her kit is really strong. Leer is one of the best flashes in the game because the enemies have to kill it, you can throw it out near enough anywhere, and it also doesn't flash your teammates, which makes it really good for executes and also double peeking against certain targets. And her ultimate is very scary too, but the issue is that Reyna is Feast or Famine. With her Devour and Dismiss abilities, you need to get those frags. And if you are actually crazy at tactical shooters and you're able to string together multi-kills and frag out like crazy, then yeah, Reyna's a good option. But I know a lot of you are very new to the tactical shooter genre as a whole, so that's why Reyna's so low on this list. Good recommendation for people that can absolutely pop off with her, but if you're not confident in your own individual ability when it comes to mechanics and you want to play more of a team role and have less selfish utility as a whole, then Reyna is definitely not the agent for you. Also, I think in comparison to some of the other duelists like Jet and Raze, they're a lot more versatile than Reyna is. And I think better players will be able to shut you down as Reyna, and if you're not getting frags, you're doing absolutely zilch on this character. That's why we've rated her a bit lower than some of the other agents.
Jet has gone a lot better after the change to her smokes, and getting that duration up has really helped with her reliability. There's a lot of cool ways that you can throw a smoke almost in someone's face, maybe even create a bit of a one-way and see someone underneath that smoke. They feel useful now, but Jet still really suffers from the fact that her dash is one of her best but also one of the trickiest abilities in Valorant, as it's really good to use to not get refragged, as in taken out just after you get a kill. But the fact that you can still not really use it aggressively, or it's at least very difficult to do so with that, and her ultimate being far from the most reliable one in Valorant, means that similar to some of the other characters around this part of the tier list, you really gotta be fragging out on this character and having a really good day in ranked to do well enough here. If you put in the hours already on Jet though, then hey, definitely not a bad pick.
The 4 agents that we've gone over aren't really too far behind the rest of the pack, but I would definitely say the next 4 agents that we're about to talk about, you could really put them in any order. All of them are very clearly B or A tier, not quite as good as the top 3 agents, which you can probably guess who they are. But I think these next 4 agents are more about what you want to, your playstyle, and what you would prefer to do in your lineup. Because the next agent is Breach. Now, Breach is one of those agents that's played a lot in the pro scene, and certainly one of the strongest agents when it comes to utility at setting up his team. His ultimate too, Rolling Thunder, is probably one of, if not the strongest ultimate in the game, even compared to something like Resurrect. It's great for retaking sites, it's great for executing, and if your team lines up well with you and coordinates properly, you can easily win around just using that one ultimate. But there's a lot of key things that I've said that really shows Breach's problems. Setting up your team, coordinating with your team. Breach is a very selfless agent, which is good in comparison to somebody like Phoenix or Reyna that we've highlighted, but Breach is good if you're playing with a coordinating lineup. If you're 5-stacking with your friends in ranked, then Breach is an excellent pick to pick up. But if you're playing solo queue, it is very difficult to get the same kind of use out of him, just because your team isn't going to be as coordinated. His playstyle also is a little bit different to all of the other agents in the game because of that, because of the initiating role that he has. And whilst he has one of the best flashes in the game, the time between him flashing a target and then pulling out his gun is significantly longer than it is for Phoenix or Reyna, who are duelists, so are playing much more selfishly than Breach. When it comes to the most difficult agent to play in the game, Breach is certainly up there with Viper and Reyna, I think. But if that is a challenge that you want to rise to, go for it. It's just going to be a lot harder to get that consistent value from Breach than it would be, say, Brimstone or Cypher, to compare those elite agents to what Breach is currently.
Omen is one of my personal favorites for sure. All the mind games that you can pull out, and the fact that the paranoia ability is now a whole lot better, means that I don't necessarily think he's even a terrible pick, or even a sort of middle of the pack type of agent. The smokes are pretty easy to throw out, but can still take a little bit. The fact that enemy players can play in them still though, even if they're easy to throw out, you might still have to deal with annoying counterplays to that. And the teleportability, whilst fun and kind of flashy, it can easily go wrong as well and be very predictable. I think Omen is a character that will work very well in maybe any rank sort of below plat. Somewhere around there he starts falling off quite heavily in my experience. Very fun character, but not the most reliable. However, if you figure out some cool set plays and such on all the different maps, and so long as you don't do those very common, very predictable plays, you can still make this work. It's just going to be a little bit harder. Sova has always been strong and is probably always going to be strong. The more arrow spots you know, the better of course, so you can throw out a recon bolt across the map and help your team out. It's easy to focus too much on all these different set plays with all the different darts, but I do feel like he is one of the best characters in the game still. His kit is just incredible. It's a little bit more difficult to be reliable with Sova compared to some of the absolute top tier agents on this list, but it's still one of those characters that just has all of these really good abilities, all of which are useful in some way every single round, no matter where you play on offense or defense. You obviously have to pair him with the right other agents and such to make sure that when you're attacking, you're not just reliant on Sova finding out where everyone is and then popping around the corner and killing all of them. You gotta have some things to sort of complement his kit, but all in all, great agent.
Raze is the 4th best agent to learn in ranked. She was very controversial with all of the abilities that she has, a lot of them doing damage, and her being such a frag-centric agent. I think it comes as no surprise why she's rated so highly. She certainly doesn't have the same team-based utility that the likes of Breach, Omen and Sova have. But at the end of the day, it's a tactical shooter and you need to get those frags, and nobody's better at doing that, I think, than Raze. And I think people focus on a utility of, oh, they just get kills forehead, that's the only playstyle, where I don't necessarily think that's true. Raze's grenade, for example, is good. Say if you're on defense, you throw it down mid to sort of stop a push coming through, you get a frag, or you separate the team up that they start to make mistakes. Same with the boom bot, sending it out to scout out intel, catching a position of somebody that's holding a very close angle. Boom bot either kills them, does a lot of damage, or they are forced to kill it and give up their positioning, and you can peek and get that frag from them. I think there's more nuance to Raze than people give her credit for. And because of that utility, it allows her to be very supportive with her team by stopping aggressive pushes, taking out defenders that are holding too close, and most importantly, bringing out the showstopper to just get those kills when necessary. And if you are starting at a lower rank, Raze is a really good pub stomper in that sense, without it being as much of a gamble as Reyna is. That's why she's certainly one of the best duelists for playing in competitive, but also overall one of the best agents.
Cypher was nerfed since back in the early days of the beta, and just throughout the beta, being a very good character, has still stayed on top. It was a little while ago since they removed the slow on his cyber cages, but all in all, the camera and the trapwires are still so strong for information. All you need is one trapwire on the flank and you will get that information if someone is coming or not. They can't get around it without either destroying it or walking through it, so you do get that notification regardless, and that in itself is worth so much in a game like Valorant. Brings him up a lot in tier lists like this, and means that you will very reliably get that information, which is so rare in a tactical shooter, and that's why Cypher is this high up. No other agent can do this either, which leaves him pretty uncontested in this spot. So yeah, have fun playing Cypher in ranked.
The second best agent to be learning in ranked is Sage. This is a bit of a bittersweet one. I personally don't mind playing Sage. I think I'm leaning for her to be more of my main than anybody else. But I'm getting Mercy and even Orisa flashbacks from Overwatch because she's an agent that you really can't go without. But with the recent nerfs that she's had, a lot of the interesting parts of her kit have slowly been taken out. It's very easy to just assume that Sage is just going to be the heal bot on your team, resurrecting targets, and that's really all she's good for. That's why she's so high up on the list. But it's everything that Sage brings to the table that is immaculate to a scene, and really a reason why no team should be playing without a Sage if they can help it. The wall is great at stopping pushes if you're defending. It's great at shutting off the defenders as you take another route to catch them out somewhere else. And of course the slows will buy you a bit of time whenever you need it. Healing over targets is good, but being able to heal yourself is also a big impact for your own personal performance. It means that you should last longer in rounds because you can heal yourself if you take damage, and thus you'll be able to get more done if you're not dying on low health all of the time. You look at players like Scream in the pro scene that plays a lot of Sage, but he's top fragging a lot for his lineup because he's a lot more of a frag heavy Sage. And funnily enough, Sage says it herself, she's not just your healer, and I very much agree with her in this case. Of course it helps to have that kind of utility on your team, it feels almost suicidal to not have it, but just because you're playing Sage doesn't mean that you have to follow your team around and babysit them. You can go off and frag like crazy in your own right, and because of that learning Sage, and to be able to put a consistent performance on this agent means that she's one of the strongest in the game and certainly one of the best to rank up because you have that consistency, and consistency is everything in a tactical shooter like Valorant.
And at the top, Brimstone, probably the most reliable and easy to pick up character in Valorant. So good to play in all levels of play, any rank will do. But it feels like the higher up you get, the more you realize that the value you can get from this agent from not that much effort is pretty crazy. Of course, deploying the smokes easily, but even the Molotov is just really strong because of how big of an area it covers. You can use it in connection with your smoke as well, of course. Just a lot of good own ability combos there. He synergizes really well with most agents in Valorant. And even now, after his smokes have been tweaked a little bit and it's a little bit easier to sort of see and walk through them for the enemy, they're still really strong and gonna be useful on every single map on both defense and offense. It's ironic to put him at the top like this since the Stim Beacon is actually not that great of an ability, but despite all of that, really his Sky Smokes, his ultimate and his Molotov just make up for any other flaw, and I think it is by far the most reliable and easy character to get value with in every match, and therefore lands at the top of this list. So yeah, Brimstone top tier for sure.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. If you do disagree with any of this video, do let us know. Like I said, the good portion of the central agents within the game, you can switch up the order, you can play more Roman than Breach, you can play more Breach than Raze. It really depends on what you want to play, but we wanted to be very clear on what agents we'd consider very strong, very useful, and not that difficult to learn when it comes to Cypher, Sage, and Brimstone, that we would certainly think of playing those trio. It's definitely also a good idea to diversify what agents you play. Instead of one trick in Brimstone, you might want to play a bit of Brimstone, a bit of Omen here or there, and even picking up Viper now and again might not be a bad shout. You never know where the meta may go. Brimstone could be nerfed to the ground, and then suddenly Viper could be the best controller in the game. Being flexible like that will get you a long way. Again, let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. Write down your list of best to worst heroes to learn in ranked, and I'll see you next time.